Hey, welcome back to the Show Boys podcast. I'm Pixel Nick, and join with me is Chad, and this is the House of the Dragon campaign series recap and reaction of episode 2, dubbed The Rogue Prince. While it's not a lot about the Rogue Prince, he's definitely in it, and he's a big driving force of some of the most actionable drama. But before we get into it, shout out Dad the Cap for the music on the intro, of course, and do go check out our website, showboysmedia.com. We have lots of cool stuff over there. It's looking really nice, and particularly go check out the D&D campaign page where the stream team plus Mike are working on some really cool stuff. But all that aside, we're here to talk about House of the Dragon. And I mean, it's going good. It's going good. This episode, not as strong as the first, obviously, but I think they're, keeping with their pacing. And to me, it was kind of like a callback to some early Game of Thrones like episodes where there truly are just kind of like narration, kind of like plot moving episodes where it sets up a lot of stuff later. It's not constantly action. So, coming off of Game of Thrones season 7 and 8,
right?
Obviously, it's just like action. But then, like, this reminds you that there's a lot of Game of Thrones where it's just setting up some stuff. But there is just so much stuff going on too. I think if you're not completely dialed in, you kind of don't know what's going on. I kind of had that feeling from this episode, which kind of worries me a little bit for like the average viewer and like the average critic on the internet, which might start jumping down the show's throat. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I don't know. I felt that vibe, at least thinking that it was not as strong as the first episode, like the first half of this episode. But by the end, I was like, yeah dude, this is great. Yeah, like I'm going to say it again, but I'm in 100% on all these stories. Like I'm digging it.
It's definitely. I'm definitely speaking about like moments, not the episode on a whole. Like it had those moments, whereas the first episode was kind of void of all those moments. Everything's really exciting, but maybe it's the first episode we got.
They got
it the first time.
Yeah, everybody's worried that if it's gonna live up to Game of Thrones, so they got to come out with a bang. So the only other thing that I might be a little concerned with is just how many time jumps we're gonna get through this, because I believe there's like a 6-month time jump between the first episode and this episode. And I don't know if you watched the preview for next week.
I started to.
Even a bigger jump in that one. So.
I started to. And the thing I saw like right away, I was like, wow, I am not watching these anymore because like those aren't fun.
Right.
But then, even in this episode, I definitely like wanted to mention that I definitely think we're going to be in a linear time progression here. We won't be jumping around. That's official at this point.
I agree.
If at all, maybe a little bit, but I really don't think that's in the cards at this point. Very linear, but they're going to be basically, it seems, time jumping to the point where they're just going to say, hey, everyone's older now. Well, the two girls are older now. So Alicent and Rhaenyra get new actors.
And I got to be honest. I'm a little bummed about that. I mean, obviously, I'm sure the other actresses are going to do a great job, but I like these two. Like, they should have just stuck with these two. I don't know why. I mean, I don't know why it's not that big of a time jump that you need. Maybe it is. Maybe it's 10, 15 years. But I like the two that we have right now. They're young looking, obviously. But I just don't know how long this story pans over. Like, because I know the actual war, the Civil War, is like 3 years, but I don't know how long of a story we're telling. Because another piece of news that came out this week is we're getting a season 2, which I think we kind of assumed we were going to get season 2. And then I had read that the showrunner said that they're planning 4 or 5 seasons of this, which is sweet because it's like right in your little 4-season wheelhouse that you like.
That's the spot.
But I don't know like how quickly we're going to go through everything. Like, could they have not just did the first season and then progressed into season 2 with the same actresses and just told the later storyline instead of jumping to?
That's a good point. Maybe they will start time jumping here out of necessity, maybe, and then we'll get to see things that happened like during this time, right?
Yeah.
Maybe they'll start that. With that said, given that there are at least 4 seasons, you would almost think there would have to be some room for that, because it would be really unfortunate to kind of tell those two actors to kind of like go pound salt.
Well, it's a bummer because the one that plays Rhaenyra, there was like a story that she was like a freaking waiter before she got the role on Game of Thrones, and it's like, sorry, you're going to be on the show for like 5 episodes at most, and then you can go back to waiting.
there is something about her character that is just like so enticing. Like I really like her character a lot, and the way it's acted too. Like it's like purposefully like bland. She like really captures that. If you ever seen The Crown, same kind of thing. Like she really encapsulates like a young royal, right? And just that attitude, because like they grow up a certain way. They're not necessarily like full of character. Sometimes they are very kind of bland at times, but like it's so well positioned.
And I think her character is a little naive as well, because I think that in her heart she really thinks she's going to become the heir, like sit on the Iron Throne one day. And I mean, you can see that it's not probably going to go down that path, obviously. But I do really, I don't know, I just enjoy every scene she's in. I don't know what it is. I just, maybe it's the story, maybe the dialogue that's going on, but every time she's on screen. Same with Allison. I really like Allison, even though there's really not a whole lot of meat to bite on there right now. You know, she's pretty quiet. She's got a nail picking issue for whatever reason they keep showing over and over. So I don't know. It just seems odd that they're going to move away from these two actresses, because I think they do a good job, you know?
Yeah.
And it's going to be even more awkward because I don't think anybody else is getting different actors. So they're all going to be the same actor, and then we're going to have these random two. So we'll see. Maybe it plays out well and it's seamless, but I have a feeling it's probably going to be a little jarring, obviously. But
well, I kind of backpedaled my statement then a little bit. They might introduce some sort of jumping right with timeline eventually here, to show more stuff, because I do feel like there are things that are happening, especially in this episode, things that happened off screen that they could show later on, particularly around the high towers, because for the most part, Otto plays the good hand of the king, but like you definitely know that's not the case. Because he always has his like smug smirk moments where like, yeah, we know what you're up to kind of thing.
Right.
But they don't show any of that, which is interesting.
Yeah, I think that I'm going to probably bet that we're not going to be doing any kind of time jumping, just because of how quickly everything's moving. Like between episode 1 and 2, it's been 6 months. And it looks like it's going to be like a year or maybe more between 2 and 3. So I think maybe we're just moving quickly through the setup of the war. And then we're going to, once we get the new actors, we're going to slow it, pump the brakes a little bit, and continue the story there for the next couple seasons. But
And I think it's worth, I mean, we always have to remember too, they're telling a story from what is otherwise like a history book, right? This isn't a verbatim, like, you know, a novel, what they're basing this on. So they are kind of dramatizing what is otherwise a history book. And, you know, they have a lot of ground to cover in so many episodes. And like you said, they have to get somewhere at some point. They have to get to like the war. So how do they best like jump through the spark notes here on like, this is what happened before and this is how we got here.
Yeah, I had read that I don't know if it's a rumor or what, but that they're planning to do like I said, 4 seasons of this, and then they're going to keep that House of the Dragon name and move on to a different part of the Targaryen timeline, like Aegon's Conquest, something like that. Do 4 seasons, move on to it. I'm like, here, I really want to see Aegon's Conquest outside of Robert's Rebellion. That's like my most, like my top pick probably. So I'm here for it if that's what they do. And the other thing that we have to talk about right when we get into the episode here is that we finally got the intro that we were talking about. So I thought for sure, I think I maybe even said last week that there was a good chance that just that Targaryen logo popping up was the intro. But knowing HBO and knowing that all their shows have to have like a minute-long intro, you knew it was coming. And I loved it for multiple reasons. It's Valyria, the model in Viserys's room. That's what we're going through. The blood, it's going through the family tree of all the Targaryens. So if you look, the blood is like going down through all the different Targaryen houses. And you can see the ones that got married coming together and stuff. So
Blood
it's
of
really
the Dragon.
yeah, really cool intro. And they kept the song. Like, come on, bro. Like, I'm in for sure on the song.
Yeah, I feel like it was like the week of maybe when they've, even with, I really think I noticed it on the first episode was, the fact that they kept Game of Thrones above the title, right? So, right, we talked about this last episode. Officially, they are dubbing this IP is the Game of Thrones IP, right? New title sequence, which is great. We needed that because you got to have the HBO and then
right, exactly.
roll the theme with like a really really badass visual. But
right.
I like the move to keep the Game of Thrones theme song because the theme song and the style of the intro cinematic is basically their version of like the Star Wars credit crawl, right?
Yeah,
like
absolutely.
you see that, what you're about to watch, blah blah blah. Boom, you get the theme song. Actually, it's the HBO theme song. Whatever's on the screen doesn't matter. You are in the world of Game of Thrones.
Yeah, I agree 100%. Yeah, nothing hits better before a Game of Thrones episode of any sort than that song, man. That end of that song is just gets you jacked up to watch the episode.
It's so smart. It's very very smart because you don't need there's nothing wrong with that song. There's nothing wrong with it. You can play that forever. Just slap a new whatever in front of it.
New dialogue in front of it. New diagram in front of it and run us through it.
And keep going.
I'm curious if like I'm trying to think because I had a little bit of thinking that maybe were we going through we were essentially going through a model in the original Game of Thrones intro, right? Like that was a model of all of Westeros.
Yeah, it was kind of like an abstract like rendering, like inside out world of it. But then I did like to think that the like kaleidoscope thing in the where all the maesters are trained.
The astrolabe. I looked that up. Yeah,
I like to think that's what it's based off of, kind of, because it had all the similar stuff. So except this, I was like, this is because what gave it away was at the end for me was like where you see the main like part of the city. I was like, oh, that's definitely the model from Viserys's room.
Yeah, I think it's really cool that they end on the volcano too, and you can see the blood like seeping down into the volcano. So I don't know why I missed this, but I'm pretty sure that the doom of Valyria was obviously caused by those volcanoes. Like, I don't know how I missed that. I thought it was just a mystery. Like they didn't really know what happened there, but they literally built Valyria on top of 14 volcanoes. Like piss poor idea there, Valyrians. I apologize, but not the best place to maybe build a city. I mean, but it is cool that they show that in the with the House of the Dragon logo at the end.
Yeah, something about like, when there's 1,000 dragons and like the way that whole city was built, it's just asking for trouble.
Right. Yeah.
Not good. Not good.
I agree.
And we get some good dialogue and learn a little bit more about Valyria, which is always fun. We have all these little side history lessons about Valyria throughout these episodes.
Yeah. Yeah, because we don't know outside of going through there in the original series and hearing snippets here or there, we don't really know too much about it. So it is cool to get that background. He's even pointing out like, here's where this was, here's where that was. I'm like, oh, that's cool because we don't know any of this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
We know the Stone Men are there in Game of Thrones. That's basically it.
Yeah.
So it is cool. I hope we do get more of that. I think we're going to get more of that. He's like a student of the history of Valyria. So I think we'll definitely get more of that throughout the series. But it's welcome for sure.
Yeah. And we're kind of got this little like sub theme here of this very scary crab feeder guy. So we get a very gnarly open here with just some people kind of like staked up on the beach being eaten alive by little crabbies. That's quite horrifying. Very ominous tone too.
Yeah, I dig that. I dig any kind of horror element in the series, so that's a cool little horror element. Obviously, we can't do the White Walkers, even though we mentioned them in the first episode. They're hundreds of years away, so it's cool to have. He's got a very horror vibe to him, especially with the crabs. He's got like a freaking Batman villain thing going on. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like just that weird like feeds people to crabs. Like, of course he does. Why not?
Yeah, and they give just enough for you to know like this is going on somewhere and it's a problem, and but you don't get anything more than that. So it's just
Yeah.
this like looming eventuality that we're gonna get to see like this big baddie crab boy, crab
Right.
man. He actually is a crab
Yeah.
person.
Yeah.
There's been weirder things in this show, so
That's true.
never know. But kind of leading right from there, we get our favorite small council chamber meeting. Various things are going on in these meetings, especially these like cold open ones where there's just always a ton of stuff going on. And Sir Ryan of the Kingsguard just gently passed away. I thought that was an odd premise, but at the root of it, they're seeking a replacement.
Yeah, so
And
I had texted you because we were a little confused on the other guy that was following Rhaenyra around, and I told you that he was the Lord Commander of the Night or of the Kingsguard, and obviously he wasn't. It was the old dude that put the ball in the thing for the
yeah,
king.
yep.
However, now that guy is the Lord Commander. But yeah, I did think it was odd because he didn't really look that old.
Did he not gently pass away? Maybe there's more going on.
There might be more. Yeah, who knows? With the show, man, you never know, right?
But that explains my confusion. Why wasn't he with the king? Why was he with Rhaenyra? Here it is. He isn't actually the Lord Commander. He's kind of like the second Lord in command, Lord Commander. So of course storms in and he's pretty pissed off because the crab feeder man is attacking pirates, yes, but the last attack, like one of his ships was in there. He's losing men. The council general's like, hey, we'll reimburse you for your
they're so chill about it. Yeah, they're so chill. Like he's like, my men and my ships are getting slaughtered, and they're like, we'll reimburse you for your men and your ships and send some money to their families. Like, shouldn't we maybe stop this from happening more, or you're just gonna throw money at it? Yeah, but he's pissed, and rightfully so. We get a little bit more on why he's so agitated about it at the end of the episode. But I like this meeting for two things. You see that I love Corlys. He's just like a no bullshit, like we got to get this done type of dude. And I love those guys on these shows. But I also really like Rhaenyra's kind of thing that goes on here because they do mention that, and I think it is here, that Daemon has taken over Dragonstone, right?
Yep.
And he's gone uncontested for 6 months. So that puts us, like we said, 6 months after the first episode. So it's been 6 months, give or take, since she has been named heir, and she's still the cupbearer. She's still, nobody's listening to her. Yep. Like her life has not changed even remotely.
Yep.
Like it's no different whatsoever. So I really like that because she does offer up a suggestion, which
Corlys
gave me Corlys definitely likes it. Why wouldn't he? But it gives me kind of like crazy Dany vibes too at the same time. Like she's got that like let's just burn everything vibe going on with her. And I don't know if that's because she's
vibe, though.
Yeah, that might be true. But like the king, I mean, the king's a Targaryen, and he's like,
flip of the coin.
No, let's not. Yeah, that's true. And so I'm curious. Like I think it would be weird if she ends up being the crazy one in this story, but I don't know how it pans out in the book. So you got to assume that somebody's going to go off the rocker. I think everybody's assuming it's probably Daemon, but
I would like to think that the book doesn't really give much inflection in terms of like their mental fortitude.
Yeah, that's true.
Because it is like a history, so maybe it's kind of up for interpretation. But yeah, that's a good point about like I kind of just took that as like, that's just how Targaryens, half of them are like that. They like to just kind of burn stuff sometimes and just be actionable because they have dragons. So why not?
Why not? Yeah.
And I think a good maybe reason why Viserys is a little more restrained in that capacity is because later on we do note that he was, I think they said this in the first episode, but he was the last dragon rider of Balon or Valyrian, and he was like one of the biggest dragons. So he might have a different perception in terms of like, yeah, they're pretty bad and dangerous, and they're lethal.
Yeah.
Whereas,
I think that I don't know if they said that or if we talked about it in our episode. I had thought that I had heard that he was the last rider, but it was like very brief, like a week or something ridiculous. And then he never picked up another or never got bonded with another dragon after him. So I think that's why we have not seen his dragon yet. I don't think he has one. I think Galarian was the bond. And I hope they go a little bit more into that because that's something that Game of Thrones did not touch on at all is the bonding between the rider and the dragon. Like it's like a thing that only Targaryens have.
Yep.
So I would just like to know some more meat behind what's going on there. You know what I mean?
Blood of the dragon, man.
Yeah.
Literally, they got dragon blood somehow.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think we'll figure out in this episode or this series for sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, she has that good suggestion. She mentions like be a show of force, right? Just kind of put everything in its place. But he kind of, the king kind of follows up with they send envoys to the free cities to kind of find some common ground with these pirates and things like that. Meanwhile, Otto kind of suggests she needs to find better things to do.
Then shoo her away. Yeah.
And I like the suggestion that he has is like to go help pick out a new Kingsguard. And I like how that kind of like turns on him to some degree, because we get to see this cool scene of like how a new Kingsguard's chosen from these very noble houses. And they kind of put these little chess pieces on the board for whoever's speaking, which is a nice little visual as they kind of oversee them in the courtyard. But ultimately, you know, she very quickly is like, none of these guys have like actual fighting experience.
Right.
They're all quote unquote tourney knights, right? Because they're all just fighting tournaments. But she knows her Christian Cole actually does have combat experience. So like she really kind of leans in on that and basically picks him. Meanwhile, Otto kind of comes in and is like, yeah, it's more about political, you know, advancement and maneuvering. She's like, yeah, but pure logic, like the Kingsguard should be able to in combat defend the king.
Yeah.
He's like, can't disagree with you there.
Right. Yeah. I
so
really
that flipped on him.
Yeah, I really like that. I kind of, as soon as I saw him standing there, I kind of figured, because he doesn't have a banner. I don't think he doesn't have a sigil. When they put his little figure piece down, it doesn't have anything on it. It's just like a piece of wood.
It's like uncarved cylinder of wood.
Yeah. So I thought that was cool. It's showing that he's maybe coming from nothing. And they say he's the son of like a steward or something, and he was knighted. And they kind of break it down. It sounds like some sort of thing going on in Dorne. He helped fight the Dornish. So I figured that he was going to be the one that she was going to pick, because I figured he was going to stick around. But yeah, I liked it. I also liked that she was like standing on like a little box, like a little kid, so she could see over the railing, which I thought was really funny.
Like doing the little like, chin reach. She's like, "What's going on down there?"
Yeah.
and she also certainly knows him from the tournament, and she bested her uncle, which isn't easy. Yeah. Which comes up again later on. So this was cool. We just get a little bit. It's like kind of like the little small council spheres.
Yeah.
We just get a little bit more intrigue in terms of like, how does the kingdom tick here?
Right.
And this is one of the things. One of the many important things that has to happen. You have to pick new Kingsguard. Yeah. Handpicked, apparently. I would like to know how many Kingsguard there are. If you're handpicking each one, I feel like we're like sub 50. I don't know.
Yeah. They said that they have to go like through a test of some sort to even get to that picking thing there. Because I think Otto's like, they all pass the basic test or whatever. I don't know what the test entails. But yeah, it's cool to see. It's not something that you really think about. Like I didn't watching the original, so I'm like never thought like, how do these guys become Kingsguard? But it's cool to see it here because, you know, we're in the early days of the show. We need something to fill up the screen.
Yeah, and I think it changed a little bit by the time Game of Thrones was in full flux.
Right.
There's some real pricks.
So much. Yeah.
Some real bad guys on that squad. Next scene, we get Viserys here, having a little history lesson with Alicent over old Valyria model. That's where we get the whole like there's that. She basically asked like, will Westeros ever be as grand as Valyria? And he's basically like, not really. They had like 1,000 dragons, huge navy, basically the height of civilization, and it's not going to happen again.
Right. Yeah, they give me the like they're like the Romans of this era, right? That's the vibe I get from them. But yeah, 1,000 dragons, like that, man.
It's a lot of dragons.
That's a lot of dragons, man. And it is cool that they say that the reason they built the city on the volcanoes is because they were close to the power for the dragons. So I thought that was a cool little touch. At least they had a reason to build a city in a volcano. You know what I mean? So Yeah,
Any sensible person would know that you don't need 1,000 dragons if it means like you can settle for like 500 if it means you can build a little further away from the volcano.
right, right. Yeah, we could lose a few for sure. Yeah, I'm just like, I'm just curious. Like, they had a huge navy and all those dragons. Like, were they contested by anybody? Probably not, right? There's nobody
No,
out. Like, even the free cities couldn't even stand against.
they founded the free cities, I do
Did they?
believe, to
Okay.
some degree. There are some. It's just, I mean, it's just so grandiose, like
Yeah.
how that time in the world was. Like Westeros was just a bunch of like squabbling kingdoms that they would never contend them. So it's really just that like here's the Valerians and then there's everybody else kind of
Right.
thing.
Yeah.
So there probably wasn't a lot of need to be like, hey, you are under our control. It's more like, nah, we'll just melt you.
Yeah. Yeah, right.
1,000 dragons is kind of like 1,000 star destroyers, and it's just like, yeah, not gonna
Yeah.
do
We're
much.
good. We're good.
But I like how we get this scene with them because it's just exactly the same scene that we kind of started with when she first went to see him. So quickly just saying that like, hey, it's been 6 months. They're still doing this thing. They're just having these quiet little private history lessons, just hanging out.
Yeah.
Just chatting. Um,
Yeah. Like I said, I dig Allison a lot. I don't think that she has any ill intentions of these meetings with the king. I think this is all her father's got the bad intention, or not bad intentions, but he's got a purpose behind it. I don't even think she knows. Like, I think she's just doing what she thinks is right.
yeah,
You know what I mean?
yeah. Yeah, and her character at the end of the episode in like the post credit like explanation, like her character, she was saying like just out of like caring
Yeah, yeah. That's
and
how I
like
took it. Yeah.
sympathy for like someone else who just also lost their wife slash mother. Um, and I was like, okay, that makes sense for her character, but clearly like she should know that's not her purpose.
Right.
For
Yeah.
her father, because her father, like the one scene before he goes off to confront Damon, he's basically like, will you go see the king
Yeah.
tonight?
Yeah.
And she's
Yeah.
like, if you wish. And like
Right.
they have a little discussion about like picking at her fingers and stuff like that.
Yeah. Which they keep pointing at too a lot. I
I
don't know
think
why.
I think it has to do with the fact of like you said, like her intentions are pure, and like she is being placed. She's not dumb, but she's being placed in these very precarious situations, where she just wants to hang out with the king, kind of, or just with Rhaenyra, with the king, just like
Yeah.
be friends with
Like
everyone.
a young girl would want to do. Hang
Yeah,
out with the royalty. Right.
yeah, but she knows, like in the back of her mind, like there's other things happening, and that's going to put her in places where she doesn't want to be, and we see that at the end of the episode,
Yeah.
particularly.
Yeah.
And I think she's aware of that, and that's where like her nervous picking just kind of comes from.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
it's a
That's a good
nerve-wracking
point.
situation, especially when you know your father is just like coming up with all sorts of like
Right,
schemes.
right. Yeah, like, I mean, I thought about it a little bit because I kind of compared him to Tywin, and I do still get that vibe, but he gives me a lot of Littlefinger vibes as well, especially with how absolutely weird and disgusting the last interaction they had in the first episode, where he's like, "You should go see the king." And like wear one of your dead mother's dresses to do so.
Yeah,
Like, come on, bro.
he's
So
Littlefinger with like more of a backbone,
yeah, yeah, he's
basically.
got a higher position. He's
Yeah,
Littlefinger with a higher position. So yeah, I don't know. I like this scene a lot, primarily because of the Valeria stuff. But we do see that he drops like one of the dragon statues and it breaks. That will come back up later on in the episode, which I like those little threads here and there. You know, like the little things that add up. So
yeah, very very touching moment between them
yeah,
later. And that's really all we get of their relationship in this episode. It's really just like the implied, like unspoken relationship that's building. And maybe she is very unaware of what is actually fully coming to fruition, but the king clearly is not. I think he knows from early on what he
yeah.
intends to do, and obviously Otto is kind of plotting as well.
Right.
I,
Yeah, and you see that Viserys is kind of concerned about Rhaenyra finding out that they're having these discussions, because he even asked her like, "Hey, you're not telling her about any of this. I don't think she'll understand." And she's like, "No, I'm not." So you might be right in that. I kind of took it as something that happens later in the episode kind of pushes him towards that other decision,
Yeah,
which
true.
he rightfully should probably go to that other decision. But yeah, you might be right, because he's obviously concerned. Like, if you're just having chill conversations with your daughter's best friend, it shouldn't be something you need to be like, hey, don't tell her about this conversation unless you got something else in the back of your mind, right?
Yeah.
So
yeah, and all his interactions on that topic are all geared in the classic, like, you're walking around asking people what you should do when clearly you know what to do and know what you're going to do. And you're just looking for like all
somebody
the reasons
to say it.
Yeah, all the reasons and justifications to like not do or do what you're going to do. And your mind's made up. So he's kind of playing a little bit of like he's a little snaky in that, I think, in this episode.
Yeah, I agree.
But he's the king, like it said. He doesn't really have to explain himself to anyone. He just has to make himself feel better. But the other part of this scene, which leads right into the next scene, is there is this one moment where Alicent has this opportunity to play, I don't want to say both sides here, but she works with the king and also Rhaenyra to like bring them back together after 6 months of separation.
Yeah.
So in probably what maybe her father would use in like more of a nefarious agenda there to like, ooh, I can play with his mind, play with her mind, and make an outcome happen. She really, out of the pureness of her heart, was like, you guys should just kind of like talk it out,
right?
And like just wanted to bring them back closer, just because she is a nice person. Whereas like a Littlefinger type character would use that to their advantage somehow.
Absolutely, yeah. And it's weird because I know that like right now her intentions are pretty pure and innocent. But you got to assume that they're not going to be forever, right? Because she does have Otto Hightower as a father, and he's like the schemer of the show so far. So I'm curious if she's always going to just be this like innocent character, because I had heard her compared to Cersei, and I'm like, I do not see where the hell that's coming from. Like, I don't know if maybe that's just some YouTuber guessing or what, but I don't get those vibes right now. Maybe later down the line, she has a flip of the coin. But
by the end of this episode, though, she does make her like first like Targaryen enemy, and once you make one of those, like there's definitely another one that's soon to follow. So maybe she's not right now, but she's definitely going to piss off some people, and out of like necessity, she can't remain that way.
Right? Yeah, that's true.
And she's going to be, she's going to be queen. So you gotta roll with that one.
You gotta, yeah.
Can't really pretend you're not.
Right.
But yeah, Rhaenyra and Alicent, they have this kind of like hangout session in the Dragon Temple, and really kind of just the whole point of this is to just hear how Rhaenyra and her father haven't spoken, and there's a lot of distance there. She gets to pray, kind of makes her emotional, and Alicent just like, go talk to him, right?
Yeah.
So it's more of this. We do get a couple scenes in this episode where Rhaenyra is kind of like coping with what happened 6 months ago that she hasn't really dealt with.
And that's not the Sept, right?
I was really looking at that room. It's almost as if you took the Sept, made it bigger, because it looks like a 5-pointed star room they're in with the big statue standing all around them. So I don't know if this is like a different Sept. It is the Sept, though. I'm pretty sure it's their Sept.
I mean, the building outside looks similar. I don't know. I'd have to see side by side to see if it looks identical. But I do know that the Sept has been destroyed multiple times in King's Landing. So I don't know if this is maybe the one before that.
I would say so.
The inside of the room looked, because I think the old Sept had those statues as well, right?
Yep, and it had the middle, but it was much smaller scale, because like you could just fit like one casket of Joffrey in the middle, and enough room to like bang on it. And then you have the statues, the stairs, whereas here it's like seems much bigger, much bigger. So I think it's definitely the outside of the building too has like extra.
It looked like it, right? Yeah, that's what I thought. Okay,
they must have rebuilt it for sure. Yeah, this one got destroyed, and
because I know that it was destroyed before when the Faith militant was overthrown the first time. It was destroyed as well by somebody else. So
when in doubt, blow up the
Just
sept.
blow up the sept, man. Just rid all your enemies at once. That's the
Oh
way
my
to go.
goodness. She, that's the thing. These queens know their histories,
They
right?
do.
Alicent is
Yep.
a fond steward here of Targaryen history, and so is Cersei. Cersei
Right.
knew her way around things too. So,
Yep.
so maybe that's a little bit going on there. The next scene, cool interaction here. We're in the gardens, right? We've seen the gardens before, variations of it.
Yeah.
But the king meets with with Corlys and Rhaenyra.
I think it's Rhaenys, maybe. I don't
Rhaenys.
know.
It's basically just like
Yeah.
Rhaenyra, but with just an S at the end without the
Rhaenys.
AE.
Yeah, Rhaenys. Yeah, I think it's Rhaenys. I don't know, to be
Um,
honest with you. Just call them the Valerians.
the Valerians. The king meets with the Valerians. And the Valerians are essentially making a ploy here to bring their houses closer by wedding their daughter to the king, their daughter being 12
Yeah.
at the time. But also, Corlys kind of makes his position be like, listen, dude, crown looks weak. Daemon's just out here claiming the Targaryen seat.
Yeah, he brings up
Uncontended.
really good points. Absolute good points, and it's a little weird. Like he says, like, a woman has been named heir, first
The
time
queen has
ever in
passed.
history. The queen has passed. Daemon has seized the Targaryen seat of power uncontested, and foreign armies have gained a foothold in the Stepstones.
Yep.
So that's like not a good combo of stuff for looking powerful, right?
And the king's just like, oh, you make my reign seem so bad. Well, they're all just facts, dude. Like four things that aren't necessarily traditionally a good thing. So
right. And let's be honest, he's got a reason to be so hard up about the Stepstone thing, right?
Oh yeah.
Like it's not like I don't think he's worried about the crown whatsoever. Let's just put it that way. As far as the Stepstones go, he's worried about his house. But yeah, I thought he brought up really good points. It is odd, and I know that people are like freaking out about the daughter thing. Like, here, it probably happened back then. It is what it is. We're telling a show that's based on fantasy.
Her mom said they didn't have to bed until she was 14.
Right. So yeah, people are like real bent out of shape. But like, the people that are bent out of shape of this certainly did not watch Game of Thrones, because there's way worse crap in there. So yeah, and it's kind of irrelevant at this point as well. You know,
it
once
was
you
only
get to the end of this episode, it was discussed.
It was only proposed. Like nothing actually happened.
And honestly, it's weird because it is a really good proposal, and it's odd that he doesn't take it, because not only do they have like the strongest navy, right? The Valerians, but they're also from Valyria, so they'd be taking two houses from old Valyrian blood and combining them. So it's odd that he makes the choice that he does at the end, but I get it. It's just, like, maybe, I don't know, because they have an older son as well.
Yep.
That seems like he should maybe fall into the family somewhere. And I think I have an idea where he would if he did, but yeah, I don't know. I know people are bent out of shape about it. Like, it's over with. I don't think we're probably going to hear about it anymore. Like, it was a proposed thing. It was two powerful families coming together for a purpose. So welcome to the times,
Yeah. And later on, Otto matches it directly. He's like, she's a little young.
Yeah.
So, it's fine. Like, there's a lot of just like strategic of the crown business reasons why it should happen.
Yep.
So, and I don't think anyone's like rolling around on the show like, oh yeah, let's do, out of any sort of like weird child, like, that whole topic. Like, no one on the show is presented as the person that wants, there's no like weird little finger vibes. Like, it's all just business,
exactly,
of the times. So no, I think they did that well. And like you said, it doesn't even really matter at the end of the day. So, Corlys making very strong case. Plus, there's just like, the Valerians, there's a little bad blood there.
Right. Yeah. And that's another thing that they bring up later in the episode with one of the guys that he goes around to talk to. Like, here, there's still kind of bad blood, a little bit of bad blood between you guys from the Great Council that we saw at the intro of the show, where Rhaenys, whatever her name is, we're going to call her Rhaenys for now until we figure it out, where she was
Grand
not
Maester
picked.
mentions that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's just like everything really should be pointing him towards this decision, even though, yes, it's a 12-year-old. I get it. But everything power-wise should be pointing him in that direction.
Yep. Yeah, so next scene, Rhaenyra and her father, they have dinner. They really just kind of discuss the state of things. They have a little bit of like discussion about like, hey, mother's passed, it's hard. She shares her fun story about how she picked a new Kingsguard. He's like proud of her. Like he's like, yeah, solid interaction. Whereas I was like, would be pissing about it.
Right.
King's like, nope, sounds like a good choice.
Yeah.
You did good. And then it really kind of like summed to like the point where she started to apologize for what happened in the small council. And he was just like, don't worry about it. Like you're young, you'll learn. Basically was saying like, hey, you made a bad decision or you made a good decision at a bad time kind of thing. So they had kind of like a royal father-daughter kind of like dinner, which was nice. And that was just kind of like a full circle of her conversation with Alicent, his conversation with Alicent, but also him seeking her buy-in to remarry. Because at this point, for sure, it's a topic like, hey, everyone wants me to remarry. I know what I want to do in the back of my mind. Please just say, yeah, you're okay to do it, not knowing what I'm really going to do.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I like this. I like the behind closed doors discussions in this show so far. So I like that also every character seems to have a end game or a path they want to go down for their end game. So that's cool for a show that's taking place entirely in King's Landing for now, outside of Game of Thrones, where we had stories all over Westeros. It's important to have all those threads. And I think we even said like we were worried that maybe there weren't going to be that many threads in the show as much as there was in the original series. And I think they're setting up quite a bit going on here behind the scenes and everything. So it's important to have those, every character's got to have their own ambitions in a show this small, right?
Yeah, and I think the like overwhelming amount of threads that most people remember from Game of Thrones was like season 3 Game of Thrones,
right?
Where, like it all had stacked up so much. In like season 3, 4, and 5, like just everything under the sun was going on.
Yeah,
and I think people forget like first season Game of Thrones like had a lot of threads, but like not
as many,
a ton that everyone remembers it for. So tons of characters. I think that we probably have maybe a few characters because we all are just in King's Landing. So less locations, some less characters, but in terms of like threads being set up down the road, we're still up there on the counter.
And
they don't need to overdo it either.
Yeah, I agree.
Things are confusing enough with the names and the timeline and everything else. So it's okay to keep it simple. They don't want it to be the same. We get a quick scene, which is also an important scene that is kind of like this stacking of this same thread. The King's Cut is being kind of treated by maggots, eat the rotting flesh, and it's like the only chance to save his finger. They call it a digit.
I would like to know, I'm going to make a prediction. It's not going to blow anybody's mind. Prediction, I think we know where this, like he's going to die from a cut from the throne is my prediction. Maybe not this cut. I don't think it's going to be this cut on his finger, but he will die from a cut from the throne, which will be really cool because it shows that he's weak, like his brother always tells him that he is. Right. But yeah, first off, bro, like how did this thing get so out of? Do you see this thing? It's black. His pinky is black. How did it get so out of hand? It was a freaking cut.
Yeah, but it's just like whatever's going on with his back, like either like
he's got like
a poison thrown
or
like he's got issues or like somehow it's poisoning him. Like there's just something else going on here. That would be just not cut out for.
That would be a cool touch if somebody was poisoning with the cuts on the throne. Yeah, I don't know. You have to assume. I know that I don't want to spoil anything. I'm just making
It's
predictions,
probably
right?
Otto, dude. Just blame it all on Otto. That's what I'm
But
gonna do.
you have to assume he's going to die at some point,
Oh
because
yeah,
you can't have a war for succession if there's a king sitting on the throne. That's not how it works. So that
yeah, that's
you
right.
have to know that we're heading in that direction. But yeah, I don't see him being like murdered or poisoned or
No,
killed
he's a
by his
nice guy.
enemies. He's going to get taken out by the throne. That's my
Yeah,
pick.
yeah.
You
Someone's
agree?
gonna. Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
But at the center of probably medical technology at the time in King's Landing, how did this dude's pinky get so horrendously terrible that it's literally rotting and their last course of action is to put maggots on it? Like, is the maester just like took a week off, or he was on vacation for those 6 months, or
Well, the first cut on his back, like they don't know what it is. That's the thing. Is like these are normal cuts that are somehow festering into something they
right?
can't handle. So there is something more than just a cut going on here. Um, he's got weak blood. I don't know.
Yeah,
Like,
something's up. And you know, now that you bring it up, it would be really cool if somebody was poisoning the throne, Otto or somebody.
yeah,
But who knows? I just really dig the cut thing, because I know that that's something that happens a lot in the books, the Game of Thrones books. It's never mentioned at all in the series, the original series. So that's going to be my prediction, because I can make a lot of other predictions, but I'm pretty like almost positive that they're all going to happen. So I don't want to spoil too much. So we'll just stick with that one. Got to get at least one prediction into
one
the
per
companion
episode.
series. Yeah.
One far off prediction.
Right.
Nothing too close.
Yeah.
Like the prediction right now, like Allison and the King are going to get married and they're going to have a kid.
Right.
No,
Right. Yeah.
that's weak. That's weak. But yeah, so so like that's like the far off thread that's like kind of trailing here. But the more near and dear thread is the king brings up the conversation with the Valerians. Otto being a little like pissed that like this wasn't brought up in the small council, and the king's like wittily like, that's what I'm doing right now.
That's what I'm doing right now,
buddy.
bro.
There's you and the Grand Maester. Like you guys are pretty key here. So really Otto's retort is just like, she's quite young. But then the Grand Maester shows up with like all the logic, like
all the facts and the logic. Yeah.
He's like, I don't know, like two great Valyrian houses. She's young. She obviously will get a lot of good chance for a lot of heirs. Strategically, like it's the play as the creepy Maester that just looks at like by the book, like, yep, she checks out.
Yeah.
So I mean, Otto, and this is what's weird here, and this is where I really get offset by Otto, is he just kind of like agrees.
He does. Yeah.
He just agrees.
His decision making is sound, or whatever he says. Yeah. I think that he knows that the king is questioning this decision, or he wouldn't have brought it up behind closed doors like this. So I think he knows that he's got Allison in where she needs to be. You know what I mean? Like, I think he knows all this is going on, and that's why he's not overplaying his hand, being like, no, you should definitely not do that. You should definitely not marry her.
Yeah, it's just crazy because like that's out of character for him, for what we know as the viewer. But also like everyone's like telling the king like, yeah, bro, it's basically like the best play you got.
Everyone, yeah.
But then like there's a handful of people that are like, he's not gonna do that.
Right.
Primarily Otto.
Yeah.
And the king himself. That's most important here.
Right.
So quick succession here, we get the king and Lyanna, the to-be daughter of the Valerians, walking through the gardens, really in an attempt just to like get to know her better, because the king has stated that he doesn't really know her well at all, as he shouldn't. She's like only 12 years old, and he's like
definitely
70.
Should not.
So
I actually, fun little thing, I think he's supposed to be in his 30s in the beginning of this. It's the gray hair throws you off.
Yeah, I guess that's true. Yeah, okay. Can we say late 30s? Like
39? Yeah, it's late. Yeah, it's like, I think it's like 36.
Okay.
But I thought the same thing until.
But his cousin's like
that.
Really old. She's like in her 60s. Like the Valerians seem like they're in their 60s.
Yeah, the
maybe
women show
50s.
The age.
Valerians are in 50s.
I thought the same thing, dude. I thought he
That's
was
a
like
good
in his
point.
60s or 70s, but yeah, he's
Okay.
supposed to be like in his mid 30s, we'll say mid to late 30s.
Good catch. So two important things from this scene. We get more dragon lore, right? So she's asking like, "Hey, you're the last person to ride Balerion. What was that like?" And
Yeah,
then
this is cool because we hear more about Balerion, which is cool, but we also hear
Vagar,
about Vagar, however you say it,
Vagar,
which is the current largest living dragon. So big
too big
that
for the dragon pit.
too big for the dragon pit, which is cool. And he is alive somewhere. They say where they think it's nesting. She is nesting. I think it was somewhere maybe in Essos, somewhere by
coast of
the
the
Narrow
narrow
Sea or
sea.
something.
I assume Essos.
So
No,
I do believe we've seen this dragon in the trailer. If I'm right, I think
the
we
big
saw
one,
this big one. I can't wait to see it, dude, because the chart, if you look up, you can find the chart of all the dragon sizes, and they're not really landing it for me personally right now, the size difference, because if you look at that chart, the 3 dragons from the original series are literally the bottom 3, besides like one more that was the quote last dragon. And then we have Caraxes and Cyrax, who are Rhaenyra's and Daemon's, way up on the list. And they do not look, at least Rhaenyra's does not look that much bigger than Daenerys's. Do you think they look bigger? I don't think hers looks any bigger whatsoever.
Drogon was like.
I'll send you
I
the
found
graphic.
it.
Okay, you did.
I found it.
But you see how the 3 are down at the bottom there? Put it up on the screen. You put it up on the screen.
I'm about to. Whoops, I did not do that right.
It just seems like, I don't know, the size difference is just not landing according to this chart on the show for me. So I'm hoping that this Vagar is like massive. Because if he's, yep, that's it. So if we look down at the very bottom here, we have the last one is the last dragon. That's the one that Tywin was probably saying had the skull the size of a dog or whatever.
Yeah.
And then we have Viserion, Rhaegal, and Drogon, which are the 3 dragons that Daenerys has in the show. So if we go up a row and over 3, we have Cyrax.
Cyrax, yep.
And that is Rhaenyra's dragon. And
Correct.
then Caraxes, I think, is Daemon's.
Yeah.
So if you look, especially when we see them in this episode specifically, it does not look that much bigger. Cyrax does not look that much bigger than Drogon, Rhaegal, and Viserion.
Yeah, that's crazy, because I would give Caraxes. Caraxes is huge, because we see Daemon standing right up in his face, and like he's big.
He's big. Yeah, he's a big boy.
But Cyrax seems like definitely. I would say maybe that's appropriate. I would say Cyrax is more like Grey Ghost in my mind in terms of comparison to Caraxes.
Really? See, I think it's like but maybe
I don't agree with where Dany's dragons are. They are at least like on the bottom row, but all the way to the left.
Or at least Drogon is over there somewhere. Yeah, because the other two are a little smaller. And if you look at the diagram there, like, I don't know, the sizing's just not right on this chart.
Yeah, they're telling me Viserion is the size of an elephant.
Yeah,
is really what they're telling me.
But just look at the human, and try to compare like Dany riding Drogon. It just doesn't line up. She had like 5 or 6 people on it in the Beyond the Wall episode. So,
which is funny. That whole bit is weird anyway.
You know what I mean? So either this chart is just like BS and made up, or something's off here, because
I'm like, not following it.
I'm expecting Vagar to be massive, bro, because he's almost, the way that these in this world, at least, the older they live, the bigger they get. They never stop growing. So Vagar's the oldest dragon. Obviously, he's now the current biggest dragon because he's the oldest. But even
based on that detail, is that would make Drogon and the Dany dragons really small, because they didn't live very long.
Because they didn't live very long, right? Exactly. So, I don't know, man. I don't know. Maybe it's just that Cyrax is very like chody. Like he's very short and stubby. Maybe that's what's throwing off the size difference.
Yeah, but we get
whereas Danny's were long and
yeah,
you know what
we
I
get a
mean?
pretty definitive scene though of. I mean, I don't contest Caraxes and Cyrax.
Yeah.
But it's really like the Danny dragons just don't seem that small. They should be a little further along. But
yeah, and then we do in this episode here another dragon named Dreamfire, which is that blue one there.
Yeah.
And I don't know per se. There are 17 dragons in this series allegedly that we will see eventually. So I don't know if this is all of them that we're gonna eventually see. Could be. Seems like the timing's lining up on it with Dreamfire. Obviously not Drogon in the last ones there, but
I like the one named the Cannibal. That's
the Cannibal.
Like...
Yeah, and I like the sheep stalker or sheep stealer. Yeah. There's like a little callback to Danny's Dragons going crazy on the sheeps back in Essos.
Yeah. Crazy. Nah, good graphic, even though it's hit or miss. I'm not sure. I'm not sold on it.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, that was a fun conversation because that's just like we know there's a big dragon out there somewhere. Right. And at the end of their conversation, the other takeaway from this scene is like she really like stops and she kind of just recites what her father has told her to say. King sees right through it and is like, "What does your mother say?" Basically, something not much better. Like, don't got to bed me till I'm 14.
Don't got to bed. Yeah.
And the look on his face and like where he's at is like, I can't, like, she can't even think for herself. She's so young. And
yeah, exactly.
He knows it.
Yeah. And you can tell because she's totally rehearsed by her father. The line that she says is like, and he calls it immediately, it's right?
Most
like your dad. Yeah, right.
Thing ever.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, I like this primarily because we hear about the dragon and we see that like this is totally not going to work. This little king queen thing we got going on. Even when they're walking away, dude, it's like, what the hell? Like, she is way too young, bro. She's like super short compared to him. So yeah, he's definitely not vibing with it. She's definitely obviously not vibing with it.
Yep, which is important. So we pan up and Rhaenyra is watching, not super pleased.
Yeah.
And Rhaenyra, she kind of like bluntly just confronts her about the order of things, quote unquote. So we have, the queen that never was, very displaced by the decision, right, that was made many years ago to not have a queen. So she's really kind of bought into that, like, this is just how things are.
Yeah.
And then in this scene is where I got the Dany vibes, where she's like, well, when I am queen, I will just make a new order. Yeah, it's like, here we go. Which is fine. I'm completely okay with Dany technically just having traits of one of her great aunts or grandmothers or whatever. Yeah, totally. Like, she's like, oh, my grandma said that, I'm gonna use that one,
right? Yeah. Yeah, I really, this is probably one of my favorite interactions in this episode, to be honest with you. We saw this a lot through the trailers, so we knew like a lot that was going to be said here, but it's still cool to see. And it's cool to see that like she's just a grumpy old lady, and I really enjoyed the grumpy old ladies in the show. Like the grandma in Game of Thrones is one of my favorites. So yeah, I like this interaction where she kind of knocks Rhaenyra down a couple rungs, because she is, even though everything in her life is pointing to like, hey, your life really hasn't changed much since you were named heir, obviously. Yep. She does need to be knocked down a couple more rungs, because she's like, here, your father's eventually going to remarry, and there's a good chance that he's going to have a son, and when you die, or when he dies, the people are going to expect that your brother will take the throne, not you, because you're a woman. And she's just bitter because of the decision that was made at the Grand or Council, or whatever they called it, Grand Council.
Yeah, and this was a really good interaction, because I want to say Rhaenys came out on top a little bit, just because she has a lot of facts backing her up about the reality of things. But then we also have Rhaenyra kind of here with that attitude, that Targaryen attitude, just like Daemon, just like Dany, which you want to back up, but you also see that breaking down a little bit as the reality. Mostly this is like a reality check from Rhaenys basically saying, like, you're not just gonna get it just because they named you heir. Like,
Right.
either accept that you're not, or if you really want this, like, you're gonna have to do more than just be the cupbearer.
Yeah. Yeah. I love it. Yeah, I love it, man. Because she knocks her down a couple times
Yeah,
in this conversation.
but she's like,
And
she
one of
denied
them.
you, princess.
Right. Yeah. They're
Right?
going back at each other. I loved it a lot. I really like the, is that what you tell yourself when you're pouring their wine or holding their cups or whatever?
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I like what they're setting up here. I hope we get more interactions between them. I'm sure we will eventually. But yeah, I really dug this.
Yeah, this was a good one. And then really the capper quote from her was, "Men will sooner put the realm to the torch than see a woman ascend the Iron Throne."
Yeah.
And yes, we do eventually see the realm torch in Game of Thrones.
Right.
Maybe not for that exact reason, but more or less for that same reason.
True. Yeah.
Dany is to not be queen, so we're just everything's gonna burn.
Yeah.
Even though she did most of the burning.
I will say that for whatever reason, watching this show made me wish that they did not kill Dany's brother off and they like split and became like warring over an Essos together against each other, which would have been really sweet.
Yeah, he's weak though.
But yeah, he was weak. That's true. I just watching this, I was like, man, I'm into the Targaryens, fighting each other thing here we got going.
Yeah, and that's like the eventuality. Like, he was completely too bought into the whole old way, right? Where that's just how it was going to work. So he had no way of really guarding himself against crazy Dany.
It not working. Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He got his crown.
One of my favorite scenes. I do got to go back to Vhagar real quick. So you have to assume that that dragon does not have a rider, right?
Yep.
Like, is he like in retirement? He's like on the beach somewhere. He's in the Florida of Westeros, just retired,
just nesting. Took off.
Maybe it's a she.
Yeah, she's like, I'm done with this crap. Like, peace out. Kind of like Drogon did. He took off for like a season there.
Yeah.
They, when they get mad and done, they just got to vent.
Yeah.
Go burn some.
Go burn some goats.
Go burn some goats, man. So we get another scene here with the king confiding Alicent more pointedly about he needs a new queen, and they want me to take the Valyrian daughter. And she kind of has some very, very catty, good comebacks where it's like, oh, any queen would be happy to have you, much as, I have had your company. Yeah. There's a few lines in there where it's like, he's just kind of like, oh, yeah, this makes sense. You should be the one.
Yeah. And I think that
dons the gift of the little stone dragon.
Yeah, I think that's what pushes it over the edge right there. She gets that statue that he broke earlier in the episode that we were talking about, has it repaired and gives it back to him. And I think that's probably, even though he has another discussion, I think after this with somebody else about what decision he should make, I think this was the tipping point of the decision for him personally.
I think those, like, honestly aware of what is going to happen see that as the tipping point, but otherwise they're not really giving it away though. This is like the first hint of like, maybe that makes sense. Right. Yeah. If you're not already akin to it.
Yeah, that could be true. Yeah, I knew before going into this episode that this decision was going to be made at some point. So if you're not well versed in Thrones, this could have came as quite a shock at the end of the episode. So yeah, it's a good point. They're not shoving it down your face for sure. I mean, it's hidden.
Yeah, it's subtle, but obvious. But then Otto kind of storms in. And he's calling an emergency meeting of the council, and the king has to hear it directly. So the gist of this is, and this is where the action picks up. And as always, the action is centered around old Daemon because he is a man of action, and it is also slightly seeking attention. So he essentially, like the rogue prince he is, just sneaks into the capital, steals a dragon egg from the dragon pit, and bounces.
Yeah.
The kicker, which really kind of makes people upset, particularly the king and Rhaenyra, is the dragon egg is the one that she chose for her little brother, the heir for a day, Balon. So this kind of prompts the king to be like, okay, that's it. I'm gonna go like
Yeah,
give him
it's
a stern
funny.
talking to.
It's funny how quickly he flips, because at the beginning he's like chill about it. Like he's like, yeah, I mean,
He's like, what's the
yeah,
problem?
yeah, it is what it
How'd this
is.
happen?
Yeah.
Good. I wanted to know. So currently, only really the Tigerians speak in High Valyrian, but also the Dragon Riders speak in High Valyrian.
Which is really
And
cool.
these, for the most part, I think we can assume are private conversations being had that common tongue people can't understand.
Right, which is also really cool. Yeah, I thought that was a cool touch, because obviously the dragons come from Old Valyria. They're only going to be talking to in High Valyrian, so it makes sense that the tamers or whatever they are only speaking that. So that, I thought that was a really cool touch. But I I like this a lot, because we do get a note alongside this where Damon pretty much is like, hey,
He's still on the nose.
yeah. He's like, hey, I knocked up my girlfriend. We're gonna get married. You're invited to the wedding. And my kid needs to have a dragon, so I just took the egg and
At my house, Dragonstone.
yeah,
It's not really
come
my
hang
house.
out. Yeah, come hang out. So I like that a lot. The more and more I see of Damon, dude, he's creeping up from one of my favorite characters on the show. And we haven't seen a whole heck of a lot of him yet, but what we have seen so far has been some of the best scenes in the series so far.
Yeah, and Otto is basically like, hey, King, you shouldn't go. Damon is basically a man without limits. Like, he could kill you. Like, we have no idea what he's up to, and you don't have a dragon. He didn't say that, but it's a good point.
It is a good point.
So Otto basically convinces him that he will go. King agrees. Next, real quick scene, Otto gears up. This is where they talk about Allison picking her nails, and he's like, why do you do this to yourself? And this is where he's like, hey, you should go visit the king tonight. I'm gonna go do this thing. He's staying here. While he's here, and everyone's preoccupied, just go make that final. I feel like that was like the code word to like go make the thing happen, like the final push.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know, because all the scenes with Allison leading up to this scene, it seems like she's, like we said, she's innocent. She's got pure intentions. She's just hanging out with the queen because he's grieving, and she just wants to talk to him and hang out. But in this scene, she pushes back on her father a little bit. Like, if you want me to, like, she's not into it, it seems, in this scene.
Yeah.
And it seemed like, so maybe they are, maybe she is aware of what's going on more than she's leading on in the series.
At least by now, because at this point, Otto's been tipped off by the fact that the Valyrians are making a push for marriage. So he's running out of time to make his play actually like come together. So I think there was some off-screen action here where she is now more in the loop, because magically, like, he quickly arrives at like the obvious choice, and she's very much in the know by that scene.
Yeah, definitely.
Which I'll point some stuff out when we get there. So real small scene there. Next scene, very cool scene. We get a very foggy Dragonstone. And basically we have Otto, the Grand Maester, Christian Cole, and the Lord Commander. So we have like a pretty hefty stack here, like half the council, rolling up to Damon. And basically Damon in his gold cloaks plus his whore / girlfriend / mistress, and then all the other named people in some Kingsguard. Otto comes off real hot, and it's just like, Damon, dude, you're embarrassing. Like, just give the egg back, blah, blah, blah. And he continuously this aggressive stance and the usual back and forth with him and Damon. And it's just like not a lot of attempt to just not escalate the situation.
Right. Yeah. They definitely did not take the de-escalation class for the Kingsguard that they have to go through. Yeah. This is why Otto wanted to go. You can tell that he hates Damon. He wants any chance he can get to push back on him in any way. But I like that we're on the steps that we see a lot in the original series. This cool callback. I got to be honest with you. I'm a little wishy-washy on the new look of the castles and stuff. I don't know. Some of the scenes look a little off to me. Now, granted, I only watched this episode once. My internet was like absolute trash last night, so it was like 720p. So that might have been it. But I don't know. Do you think it just like looks faker than the original series. Like some of these shots, specifically the King's Landing shots, is what really stick out to me. They just look very, very CGI. I don't know else to describe it.
Yeah, so I think this is I'm going to chalk this up as this is the exact complaint that people have with the volume surround stage, because those really big open landscape shots, like it's just very clear you're kind of looking at a screen,
right?
So yeah, I think that's some of that kind of shining through, and I think if they start, I think that happens when you're looking at very like especially 4K TVs. Like they're going to show you like all the detail, and it's going to look out of place really quick.
Yeah.
So I think it's that they're getting limits with that technology that should be used everywhere else.
Yeah.
Except these like grand shots,
panning shots. Yeah.
Like they need to go on location for this.
I agree, but that being said, I don't think by any stretch of the imagination it looks terrible. It just looks radically different from the locations that we saw in the original series that we're seeing in here. They look very different. Now, I'm okay with it if it's cheaper and quicker, and we can get these shows out quicker and these seasons out quicker. I'll adjust to it. I'm fine.
People aren't dying or getting injured in the middle of the night.
Yeah, people are breaking their legs in the middle of a freaking blizzard trying to film it. I'm cool with it. It's fine. It's taking a little adjusting. I think the dragons look really good.
That's
one thing that I think sticks out really good in the episodes. It's just primarily the from the window Cersei style overlooking of the city that
looks so much better in that.
It looked much better in the original series.
Yeah, and that's the other thing that the volume is going to do much better is bring real life people much closer to like the CGI elements when they need to be there. So like you won't have any of these early Game of Thrones shots where it doesn't quite look right that Dany's touching a dragon.
Yeah, Dany's like looking in the wrong direction, looking at the dragon or something. Yeah.
Yeah, and also when they did that, like it was an actual model, like it was all close-up shots, and then you jump to CGI. Here, it's pretty fluid that it's all the same cohesive thing that we see. Everything that we see, Daemon's dragon, like that thing is just like
yeah.
You could not do that with Drogon and all of them in Game of Thrones.
Yeah, absolutely. I will say, even though I'm pointing out how I thought this scene looked personally, it's really just the Dragonstone stuff. The cinematography in this freaking scene is beautiful, dude. No matter what. Once things pop, obviously things pop off a little bit, swords get drawn. Otto's like, dude, it's gonna be a slaughter. Like, just give me back the egg, bro, and we'll leave.
This is his little finger element coming out, where it's like, dude, power is power. Like, you don't really have a play here, buddy.
Right, exactly. But he does have a play as his dragon comes popping around. Yeah, it is. Cyrax is his.
Yeah, but Cyrax and Rhaenyra didn't come there on Otto's word.
No. Is Cyrax Rhaenyra's or Caraxes is Rhaenyra's?
Caraxes is Daemon's.
Okay, Caraxes. I'm sorry. Caraxes, I'm talking, is his play as he comes peeking.
Oh yeah, I'm saying Otto's little fingerness about him.
Oh yeah.
He doesn't really have anything to stand on here against Daemon.
Nothing. And I like it. I always, even in the original series, I enjoy people seeing dragons that don't normally see dragons and the reactions to them. But yeah, I think he looks awesome, dude. That dragon's cool. Like I said, he moves a little weird, but I think it's just the way that he's built.
He's a worm.
He's like a worm. But the coolest shot by far, the coolest two shots is Rhaenyra coming in through the freaking fog, dude. The fog like going up.
I just like how they always hear the dragons first. Both of those dragons. Like they heard Caraxes coming. Like the weird like nasally squeals that Caraxes makes, and then you hear like the typical like dragon screech of Cyrax, and then all of a sudden poof through the fog, like right up in front of them too.
Yeah. I absolutely love that. And then the shot of the sun in the background and the dragon
Yeah.
flying up. Dude, that's almost up there with the moon shot from season 8 of Game. Like the cinematography, we learned a lot from season 8. You can tell in this season. Like I think we're gonna get a lot of these beautiful freaking shots throughout the series. And we're episode 2 and we're already getting one. So but I do, again, I really like the saddle that the dragon has on. It even has reins, which I thought was hilarious too. And she kind of pops in kind of unannounced, right? Like, I think, did her father even tell her, like, you're not going or something?
No, like, he didn't even know anything about it. He was pissed that she just left without saying anything. So she basically did this because she's like, it's not going to, I think she doesn't want anything bad to happen to Daemon.
Right.
She also wants to recover the egg safely. She's the only one that Daemon listens to. So there's a number of reasons why she knows clearly this is the better play than sending hot-headed, like, with
Otto to do it.
Otto with like an agenda here.
Right. Yeah.
On top of her new Kingsguard, like, she's not trying to have like a bunch of people melted. So like, as like kind of like a queen to be that has like some sort of know-how about how the world works and how to address situations, like a show of force. Like, someone just needs to, that can stand up to Daemon, who has a dragon, needs to come just like, be like, dude, like, what's the deal?
Yeah. And I love how aggressive she is with him too.
Oh yeah.
Like, they start talking in Valyrian. You can also tell the mistress is there. You could tell that she was getting irritated about something throughout the show. I didn't pick up in this scene what she was getting irritated. You could just tell multiple times she's irritated with Daemon in some capacity. But I love that Rhaenyra is like, here, like, if you want you want to be the heir again, you have to kill me. So go ahead and do it and be done with all of this. And she knows that he's probably not going to take that course of action. But I like that he just gets irritated, turns around, walks away, and then throws the egg at her. But I do have a prediction. Another one.
Here we go.
I don't think that's the real egg. I think he kept the real egg. He's either going to keep the real egg or he's going to acquire another egg at some point in this season specifically. We'll see if that pans out. But go ahead.
I was going to say, well, like what you said, why you don't know why she's like upset, his mistress. Well, there's a lot of like weird stuff going on here, and then into the next scene all about that. So like, to some degree, it's a lie that she's pregnant. She's not.
Yeah, we learned that that's why
that they're not getting married. Like, basically that was all a ploy, which kind of dials us back to like, really, it was just Daemon trying to get attention from the king.
Exactly.
And that's kind of why he just like childishly tosses the egg back to her. It kind of just like, fine, Rhaenyra, you win this round. All good points. I really just wanted to like fight Otto and like just have something really ridiculous happen because it's been 6 months. I'm kind of bored.
Right.
That's kind of like his attitude. But yeah, she totally kind of just manhandles him a little bit, which is really cool to see.
Yeah, I don't know how I feel about his mistress character, and I think she might be a relatively big character in this. She has a character spotlight on HBO, so I don't know why she would if she wasn't. But I don't know. It's maybe her accent. I don't know if that's her real accent or if she's doing that accent. I don't know. Something's off with her.
I saw the spotlight. That's not her real accent.
Okay,
but she is adopting some sort of broken common, like, I don't know what it is. It's almost like what I feel like people got upset about Jar Jar Binks about.
Yeah.
Like doing like broken Asian.
Yeah. I agree.
But I also want to say it is some sort of like dialect mixed in there. But the fact that it's so broken in the common tongue, I think, is unnecessary. Like, but it's also to show that she is kind of like a lowborn as well.
And that's fine. It's fine. And I think it's not necessarily the accent that I have an issue with. It's maybe the way that it's being acted out along with it. You know what I mean? It just seems like it's almost making her seem like she's a really bad actress. And I know that that's probably not the case. But to be fair, like, I could not imagine acting in a different accent. Like, that's got to be difficult to begin with. So if you're not like tip top acting shape, that's a hard pill to swallow, I would imagine. But yeah, I don't know, something about her. It's just I'm not jiving with it.
Yeah, I think once we get to know more about her, maybe it'll
Maybe.
kind of start to click a little bit. But this is the first time we hear her like really speak, and like she didn't sound like that in the first
I didn't.
episode.
Yeah, that's why I thought the same thing. I didn't remember her
It was
sounding
just
like that
really
either.
strong in this one, and
Yeah.
not sure what exactly is going on there, but did feel a little out of place.
Yeah, I don't know if she's like maybe it was the layering of seriousness with the accent and the brokenness that was
Mm-hmm.
making it bad, because the scenes we saw before obviously weren't in any serious capacity really. It was all the whorehouse stuff in the first episode. So
Yeah, and their conversation is really weird too because she alludes to like she didn't like that he put her in these like dangerous lives with powerful people, and like he's like the prince, he can afford to have these fights with the king. And
right.
she's really just this. None of that is why she came to him and like is
Yeah.
with him, and she is with him to be saved from like fear or something like that.
Yeah.
It was a really I did it. This didn't like really sync with me. Like what is going on here? Why he lied? She cares so much about that? Her real purpose. So like there's just like a lot of weirdness where
Yeah,
that all
we need
settled out
more.
at.
Yeah, we need more background on exactly what's going on here, because I think that he seemingly loves her in some way,
But he's
or
being like the cool boyfriend. We're
but
like,
he's
nothing's
yeah,
a big deal.
right. Yeah, right. So he says multiple times, even in the kind of standoff with Rhaenyra, that like he didn't choose his wife that is back in the Vale,
Mm-hmm.
and this is the one he chooses. So I think he loves her in some way, or likes her more than his
Yeah,
wife apparently. But yeah, I don't know. We need more background on what is going on here with her specifically, because the
yeah,
line like to be saved, I like to be saved from the whorehouse. Is that the extent? Like she didn't want to be a brothel worker anymore? I
yeah.
don't know.
It
Maybe
was a
we'll
weird
get
one.
more. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, yeah. Very cool scene. Wasn't like the biggest fan of like the context and like how that all kind of played out. So hopefully we get some more like padding around that and that starts to
Yeah.
make more sense. Um, so this is the other conversation where the king is really at his last straw, trying to like find someone to really talk him out of this, but he just needs that boost to like, yeah, I'm gonna do what I do.
Yeah.
So Lord Lionel, I don't know what his official like title is, but he's
I
on the
was gonna ask you.
council.
Yeah, he's on the council.
He's always by the Grand Maester and like the Master of Coin.
Yeah.
But basically, the king like goes to him because like he's just like, I want your unencumbered opinion. He's like, this is what I'll give it to you. And basically, he's like, marry um,
The Valerian
the
girl.
Valerian girl.
Yeah.
Like everything points to that.
Right.
And this is where you can see it in the king's like acting, where it's like he's just looking for anything to be like
He just wants one person to be like,
one.
"Don't do this."
Yeah, just wants
And he
one
can't.
person to do it.
And he can't do it. He
And
can't
he
get
can't
it.
do it.
Yeah.
And it's almost like he's being more encouraged to just follow his heart, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah. And this dude is the bluntest out of all of them, I think, on what decision the king should make. And he even says like Driftmark makes a better ally than
Yep.
an enemy, obviously.
Fun fact, I had to look this up because I really want to know where Driftmark was by the end
Oh
of the
yeah, so
episode.
do I. Yeah.
It is if there is King's Landing, there is Blackwater Bay, then all the way at the mouth of Blackwater Bay is Dragonstone right behind. So as soon as you pass Dragonstone to go to King's Landing, you pass the
Driftmark.
island
Oh.
that is Driftmark.
Oh wow. So
Um
it's all real close there, huh?
all
That explains the timing in the later part of this episode a little bit better.
Yeah, we're not doing any time jumps here or any
Right.
like any fast travel like we
I
were
was
doing in Game of
yeah,
Thrones.
I was curious about where that was. It makes sense also, I think, for the stepstone stuff as well, because that would place the stepstones in between that and Essos, right? I'll have to
Yes,
look at the
correct.
map.
Yeah, it's in the Narrow Sea.
Yeah.
I think
So
those stepstones because they are like the connecting closest like land connections to.
right. Yeah, yeah, that's cool. I also do want to point out that Corlys says that those shipping lanes, I think he's talking about the shipping lanes that the stepstones are threatened. Those ones that are threatened by the stepstone stuff going on is their last defense against reavers from the Iron Islands, which I thought was cool. That's like a little callback to
Yeah.
Theon's house there, and they're obviously still doing their
Look at that.
reaving thing. Okay, so that's the
So it's crazy. So right where my little magnifying glass is, that's Dragonstone.
Dragonstone.
This is
That's
Driftmark.
Driftmark.
King's Landing.
Yep.
The Dorne Sea, Dorne. Stepstones are really just a bunch of islands that are the choke point between at the southern of the Narrow Sea. And basically those shipping lanes obviously let you get to Korth and a lot of free cities. They let you get around Westeros to the other side of the continent. So that is a pretty important spot there.
Right.
And it's crazy that, you know, they're all just like, yeah, no big deal.
Pirates. Yeah, right. They're like, yeah, whatever.
Like, that does not look like a safe place to have a bunch of pirates.
I would imagine it. But yeah, the weird thing is like, I wonder if the pirates were making some sort of issue for Essos, and that's why they sent these people, because they said they were sent there to rid the Stepstones of the pirate infestation.
Yeah, there's a lot of fun things that can go on with that situation. Like we have pirates that are fighting pirates, we have pirates that are more organized and that are just like torturing other pirates and pillaging trade routes. So lots of fun I guess medieval politics.
Yeah, for
Whereas
sure.
like Star Wars is space politics, this is medieval fantasy politics.
Yeah.
All the boring stuff we all like. Yeah. So yeah, slowly getting more of the world. And I like to think this is where Vagar is nesting.
He's
somewhere
hanging
up here.
Out there somewhere. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Some tells me it's up there. I have a hunch. That's my guess.
We'll see. I'm gonna guess he's a little closer to the Stepstones, because I think we're maybe gonna see him during the Stepstone stuff. We'll see.
Warmer, close to Valeria. Yeah, could be down there. Good point. Yeah. So the king just can't find anyone to like tell him not to do the right thing. Nope. So Rhaenyra returns from Dragonstone. King is surprised and also upset. And I like this interaction with them because he starts off very upset with her. She keeps this cool, calm, like, listen, I did the right thing. You can't really tell me otherwise. And I think he ultimately sees that in her, and he's kind of like, I forget how much alike you both are. And I don't know if that was a nod to her mother, his wife, or Daemon. She is a lot like Daemon, but I think that was more a nod to her mother. She's a lot alike. He doesn't say though. So that would be the more endearing thing to say than like, oh, you're just like Daemon. No, it's like, you're just like your mother. So that was a nice conversation, but also this is his final, like, do I have your blessing to marry someone else, Rhaenyra? And she's like, 100%. Do what makes you happy, Dad. You're the king. Clearly, I like this actor a lot. You can see it on his face that like he knows what the outcome is going to be, but like, okay, cool. She said yes.
Yeah.
She's like, remember this. You said yes. I'm going to do what I'm about to do, and you can't be mad at me.
Right. Yeah. I like this guy a lot too. It's just I can't get too attached to him, you know?
Yeah.
He's got the Ned vibe going on right now. Like one of those characters you think is probably going to be around for a while, but really isn't. But yeah, I like any scene that has him and Allison in it specifically, and him and Rhaenyra too have really good conversations. But he needs to grow a little bit of a fucking backbone against Corlys, man. Like, chill this dude down a little bit. Like, I get that he's pissed, but when we get the kind of reveal at the end of the episode why he's so irritated about it, it's kind of shitty, you know, I think.
Yeah, he plays the passive king so well.
Like, yes, he does. Yes,
he plays the passive, make everyone happy king so well. Yeah. And then I think I like the fact that in this episode he's making a play that is like purely out of his own like desire, plus maybe Otto's, right? So here's this thing that he's like making everyone happy, but he's about to do this one thing that is going to make a lot of people upset.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
And he plays it so well, and he's just a great character.
Yeah, I think he's got like, because who was the king before him? Jaehaerys?
Yes,
Jaehaerys, the guy that at the
Peacetime
Great
King.
Council,
Yep.
was a peacetime king, 60-something years. I think he feels the need to carry that on, right?
Yes.
The peace. So
Wholeheartedly.
to his fault sometimes, where he should be doing maybe something about the Stepstones. That seems like an issue. But yeah, I like it. He does the peacetime or the good king far better than Tommen did, where it was just like way too overboard good. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, right. He's a very functional good.
Yeah, and I think that's just a product of the times as well, because everybody, like, if you look at the Kingsguard now in this show versus the Kingsguard in the original show, like, they're radically different. Like, those guys were vicious animals. These guys are like chill old men just hanging out with their cool armor.
and I think that's why he supports and likes Otto so much, because Otto manages the peacetime politics where like there's always a peaceful solution to everything, because nothing's really violent or bad.
Right. Yeah.
Let's just send envoys to Essos to try and deal with the pirate problem. Like,
right.
No, not a man of action at the moment. We'll figure out something peacefully.
Right. Do you think that we're ever going to learn about what he sent to Old Town, Otto? What the Raven said that he sent to Old Town?
To.
Yeah. Okay.
We have to. They can't start dropping threads that early.
Right. Yeah.
People will get on them really quick for that.
For sure.
Everything has to be important. So the next day, small council gathers, and we're focused on the king looking out the window. And this is interesting because the room is kind of blurry, but Otto is already sitting in the room, and I believe Rhaenyra is already standing by her cup station as well.
Yeah.
And maybe the maester is there, but everyone else enters the room off camera. Like, we see them in the background walking in, and when we look back at the king's face, but when the king turns to really tell them what's about to happen, magically, Alicent is standing by her father. Very out of place, easy to miss if you're not paying attention. But on the second watch, I was like, well, yeah, it's very obvious. Like, because why would she be here?
Right.
And no one else in the room questioned why Alicent was there until.
Also true. Yeah.
No one noticed, but she's just standing there, and it's like, well, yeah, duh. Like,
yeah.
No one's like, whoa, why are we starting with two women in the room?
Right.
This is really a problem. But yeah, so I like how even before he even says it, that's when they play on that, and Rhaenyra is like, oh shit, Alicent's here. Like, duh. Like, what are you about to do? So I like how they structured all that. And as the viewer puts that together, like, Rhaenyra, we're kind of with Rhaenyra here.
Absolutely.
We're like, oh yeah, I totally didn't see or care why Alicent was staying here, which is completely out of place.
Right. Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, that's a really good point. Really well put together scene. I didn't even think about that. But I do. When he makes the decision, I love when he's like, I have decided who I'm going to remarry. And Corlys is like,
he's like, yeah.
Yeah, bro. Here we go. On our way to the throne. And then he drops the bomb. And I just love that he was so cocky in that moment. Like, he knew for sure that he was going to make the decision he wanted him to make, and he didn't end up doing it.
And Rhaenyra was so supportive. She even gave that final look to him, like, let's do it, Dad. Like, I'm with you 100%.
Right.
Moments later, what have you done?
Yeah, and it's funny because it's almost immediately, like, she gives that nod, and then it's like seconds later she realizes, like, oh shit, my best friend is standing in the room. Like, this is probably where's the little girl that my father's gonna marry? So yeah, I like seeing the satisfaction on Otto's face as well in this scene.
Smug little
very
bitch.
smug.
I don't like him at all.
And so and Corlys obviously is pissed. I think he calls it like an outrage or something ridiculous, and storms out of the room. Rightfully so. I mean, I get why he did it. Yeah, he totally got played. And
he just went from like the best day to the back to the worst day.
Yeah,
he went from having the best day in a long time to back to like having a normal shitty day.
Yeah. And Rhaenyra follows suit pretty quickly after, as she is
as she should be
visibly
allowed to.
shaking that her father is now about to marry her best friend, which has got to be awkward.
And she called this out to Alicent in the Sept when she's like, I know these men are like scheming their schemes when I get sent out of the room.
Yeah.
Well, here's a good example of like men doing their schemes.
Right. Very good point.
Out of the room.
Yeah.
So, I also like back to like when she's picking the Kingsguard, I just want to call out Otto's like mansplaining to her. He's like, oh, that's a good pick, but this is what you should really do. She's like, nah.
They're definitely driving home women's place in this specific time, and I think that's really what the whole series is built around, right? Is a woman trying to get power.
Yeah, and it's kind of the whole premise of like this entire war that's building,
right?
And the whole civil war of the Targaryens, because they're like, hey, half of them are like, clearly there's lines of airship here, and then it's not really fair that people weave their ways around them. In clever little ways. I mean, that has to get annoying, especially when like your family's all marrying and intermarrying and shit, it's really confusing really quick.
Very confusing.
You don't just like there's always that chance you're going to be the heir.
Right.
But meanwhile, people don't just marry out of family and then off goes the lineage. Like, if as long as you're a Targaryen, there's a chance you're gonna be it.
Yep.
Just as long as you're in good with the rest of the family.
Right.
Play your cards. So that's really the bulk of that scene. And the last bit there, right before Rhaenyra storms out, is Alicent is upset that she upset her best friend. That's the last bit there. And this is like the like fruition of all her nail picking, is that like she finally upset like the person she knew she was eventually going to upset.
Yeah.
Because there's only one outcome there. She's like, oh, I'm going to marry the king. Oh, what happens then? I have babies with him. And then what? They're the heirs. And that's not Rhaenyra or Daemon.
It's awkward, right? Yeah, it's an awkward position. Yeah, that really does explain the nail picking. Like, maybe she did know this all along. Like, she was maybe playing the innocent party, but maybe she was well-versed in what her father was planning. And that's what was causing the nervousness the whole time.
Yeah, whether she wanted to accept it or not, she was well aware of like the implications of where this was going to go.
Yeah, because she's even doing it like at the tourney, so you can assume that maybe she even knows this is a potential plan going into, because the mom's still alive at that point when she's doing it. So maybe this is all.
Well, maybe not as implicit as that, but definitely Otto is like, hey, make the princess happy. Make the king happy, make me happy, make everyone happy.
Yeah.
Right. And then slowly as things get further along, he's like, let's just make the king happy.
Let's just right.
Don't worry about your best friend. She's like, well, she's my best friend. So I think it's an evolution of things, but Otto is always kind of like, hey, do this, do that. And it conflicts with her normal self.
Yeah. Yeah. Good point.
And then we get the last scene, which was really for me the first, like, didn't see that coming. I really thought Corlys was so upset over the whole situation that he was meeting with the crab feeder and was about to go in with the pirates. I don't know. I was like, no way. I'm like, we're about to see this gnarly crab feeder guy. It's just Daemon.
Yeah, I really dug this scene because we get some really cool shots of, well, not really cool shots of Driftmark, but cool little snippets of the way the designs of everything are there, like the coral reef, half human face statue that's in there, some sort of wicked sea creature skull sitting on the table. It's got a very ocean vibe, rightfully so.
In the character profile, basically he has like his place decorated with all the trophies of his great voyages across the seas. So he did like 7 voyages over the seas, and these are like his trophies.
Yeah, that's cool. That's really cool. And then we get a little bit more history on the Valerians, which I was really into because we don't know too much about them outside of they came from old Valyria. But they're basically the lesser house next to the Targaryens. And he even says they might even be older than the Targaryens,
They are older,
according to some textbooks. So I really like that. I like that the reason they didn't have dragons. They weren't dragon riders. That's why they had to kind of carve their way out on the ocean. So I really dug that. I thought it was, I'm alongside you. I didn't know who was going to be sitting there. But I thought it was shocking that Daemon was sitting there.
Makes sense, though, now that they're neighbors, basically.
Right. Yeah, right. They're right next to each other. And I was going to say, like, I want to know, when we got here, I was going to want to know where Driftmark was, because it was like this dude, like, bolted from the meeting, and then all of a sudden he's back at Driftmark.
He's went home. It's probably like a couple-hour voyage.
Yeah. So that makes more sense. But, yeah, these two together, I'm into it. I love it. I love it. I love it. These two are now starting to slightly partner up as Corlys tries to talk him into helping with the stepstone issue. And this is the thing that I said was a little shitty earlier, is like, he does not care about those shipping lanes outside of anything besides Driftmark. He says if those go down, it will beggar our kingdom. So he doesn't care. Like, even though he's trying to get the throne to help him with what is essentially his issue and Driftmark's issue, nobody seems to be listening. And I think that shows that maybe these aren't as important to the crown. These shipping lanes aren't as important to the crown as they are to Driftmark for whatever reason. Or maybe the king's just like super chill, no anti-war dude. You know what I mean? I don't know.
I do think there's a portion of the king that's blinded by his affection for Alicent and the weaving of Otto has over him. So I think because Otto thinks it's okay and it's not a big deal because it's not part of Otto's agenda. Like, forget about the shipping lanes. That's a Corlys issue. Corlys sucks, right? Just let him deal with it. Right. We'll just, through money, through just normal politics, we will just appease him. So even making an enemy of the Valyrians is a true bad idea, it's not Otto's agenda to make them happy. So therefore it's not the king's agenda to make them happy. So I think that's why this sub thing just kind of falls to the wayside here in terms of like the crown's caring.
Right. Yeah. Good point.
But yeah. But he has the bit there that really, there's a couple cool lines, like Corlys started to kind of berate on the king, and Daemon was like, "Hey, only I kind of get to do that.
I like that.
Just chill out, dude." Like, and they were all Targaryens, and we'll melt you.
Right.
But Corlys kind of like poised it as like his chance to like show his worth, almost, right, to the king. Did I catch that right?
Yeah.
Which I thought was interesting. Like, Daemon goes out, fixes this problem for you. How does that really make the king / Otto like impressed? So it'll be interesting.
Yeah, it's funny because it does not seem to be a concern to the king specifically, even though the other dude on the council that we don't know what he is, he even says like, we're on the brink of war here in the Stepstones. So he's concerned about it, but the king doesn't really seem too concerned. So I don't think it's going to land like Daemon is probably thinking in his head it's going to land, that he's going to be the savior of the Stepstones or whatever.
I mean, if he's already seen as like a rogue squatter, right, on Dragonstone with like an army, this could seem as like he's definitely expanding his power, to like claim.
Yeah.
And another thing with like, we do see a diminished, like, we have a very unmatured Kingsguard. We have the first of the Gold Cloaks, and they call the Gold Cloaks, which is the City Watch, like an army, right? So I think military forces are very different, right? Everyone doesn't just have standing armies like in Game of Thrones. I think it's very much like, hey, we got dragons. Everyone else is kind of militias and militants,
right? So
I think I'm not sure when we'll see like real scaled out war. I don't think people are provisioned right now at this time for war.
I wouldn't think so.
At the scale of like the Lannister army showing up, which were essentially Romans. So
and none of them have even seen war. Like literally, probably nobody that's alive has seen real legit war. So Yeah, it's interesting, and they play that up in the first episode. I think Rainey says something like they're all green and they never seen war before.
Yep.
But yeah, I dig this combo. I think Corlys is really good at sweet talking Daemon into helping, hitting all the right notes for Daemon. But Daemon doesn't come off as stupid either. So I'm sure that he's got a plan of his own as well.
What's an interesting point about Daemon is like I think those that are naive think they can manipulate him, and I think he even lets people manipulate him.
Yeah.
To a degree, because he is very much a wild card.
Right.
He's like, you know what? I'll play your game, like whatever that is. End of the day, I'm going to spin it for me. So I think he is easily manipulated, as we've seen, but that doesn't, by no stretch of the imagination, mean you have control over Daemon.
Absolutely.
I think that's where like someone like Littlefinger would go wrong with Daemon. He would think he has Daemon under his control, and then he'll just be like, dude,
yeah,
I will run you through with my sword very easily. Right. No one will do anything because I am the prince.
Yeah.
Or my dragon will just eat you.
Yeah. So as they're discussing that, we do get another scene with the crab feeder where we finally see him somewhat for the first time.
Is that him? I thought so.
Yeah, I think 100% that is him. He's got a badass. I like his mask, and I'm pretty positive he has grayscale. Correct?
He's got some gnarly skin.
It looks like grayscale for sure. If I had to guess, this dude has got grayscale. I don't know if that's playing into. He's like starting to tip the crazy part of grayscale, and that's why he's doing all this. He's definitely. I mean, I would bet quite a bit of money that that's grayscale. It looks just like what Jorah had towards the end of his grayscale journey.
I was so distracted by like the crab torture and the fact that he does look like a Batman villain.
Right. He does. Yeah, he does.
It's kind of like the Penguin's like cousin.
Right. Yeah. I like his design, man. And I like the horror elements he's bringing. I'm hoping he doesn't die too quickly, but he probably is going to, because we got other wars to get to. This is just a spot for us to flex our battle muscles here in the early part.
People just need to see dragons melt and stuff.
Right. Yeah.
And and this is where I'll basically say, like, I'm not watching the previews for the next like episode ever again, because like I watched like trying to find the like end of the episode recap with their showrunners. I stopped because they showed me too much in the preview. So I'm like, okay, no.
Yeah.
And then I skipped to the part where I was like, okay, here's the showrunners. But I went back too far and I saw more of the preview and I'm like, gee, stop.
Yeah. I agree, man. I think they are showing way too much in these previews, especially on this one specifically. Like
they act like I've read the books.
Yeah, right. Exactly. And I don't know. It's weird because I thought I remembered the preview for this episode having a battle of some sort in it. We didn't get any battle at all. I don't know if it was, maybe I'm just misremembering the crab feeder scenes here.
Nope. So if you can, so the first episode, it was like in the coming weeks. So they gave like a hyped up preview, almost like the trailer, and just showed you like what's coming over the next many episodes.
You're right.
Now this one seemed much more pointed. It was like, hey, next episode, boom, 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 boom. All these things are happening. We're going to tell you right now. I'm like, stop it.
Yeah. And it does, like I said, it looks like we're jumping another big gap here. So we'll see. I don't know. It looks excessive.
Maybe we'll start to jump around. But the problem is I saw the thing and like they were still the same like actors. And I was like, I'm getting confused now. So
it's I wonder how long it's gonna. Dude, it looks like it's gonna be maybe like a year, maybe even longer. I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah, hopefully that was still like another like many weeks from now. Maybe it was.
Yeah, it could be.
Keep that stuff away.
Yeah, for sure. Ooh. I agree.
But yeah, that wraps this episode. Pretty good episode. I think we're just kind of fanning out into more of what this show is kind of gearing up to be. So I think we just kind of have to get lost a little bit and not know everything about it, which is completely fine, how it should be. And that's why I'm going to stop watching those previews.
I'm done too. Especially after this one. Yeah.
Screw that. jokes.
They're hard to avoid though if you want to watch that freaking after.
I
They should
know.
put it separate, like after the
The after thing should be like a complete
separate
separate
thing. Yeah,
video
I
and the
agree.
extras.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, you got anything more?
Nope.
All right.
That's it.
We'll cap it here. Thank you, everyone, for joining tonight. Hope you enjoyed this, found it informational and useful. I know we enjoyed doing this. Visit showboysmedia.com and tune in this Thursday where Chad and I will be doing a Throwback Thursday on a video game. It's 5 years old, so I think that constitutes as a Throwback Thursday. But we're going to be Chad has joined me on the love for Assassin's Creed Origins.
I have.
So
Yes.
we'll be discussing that game at length. I'm very happy for this episode.
I know
excited.
you are. You've been talking about it for.
I've been talking about it for like 4 years.
Yeah, you have.
People are just like, I don't know what you're talking about. I'm like, dude. Am I insane? Like,
no, you're
help!
not.
Send help! Everyone's like, Odyssey, and I'm like, no.
Trash. Sneak peek for Thursday. Odyssey is trash.
Alrighty, we'll end right there. Everyone, have a fantastic evening.